Hello, welcome to another art journal flip. Now, I have been working on this journal for quite a while. I know it says Mash It Up Journal 2015, and I did treat it like a Mash It Up journal, although towards the end you'll realise I didn't. But in truth, this is my small Dylusions journal. And I haven't put anything here because I kind of have got the title page on the inside. And I've now finished this. I've got one double spread to do, but I don't know when I'm going to feel like I want to do that. So I'm going to do the flip through now because it'll take a little while. Now, I love this page. I originally started this journal as like a sermon journal, notes journal, but the paper wasn't suitable for it, and I use a lot of water media because it's very easy to write over water media when you're taking lots of notes. So I decided to not do that. But I was given this gorgeous flower in a card, and I cut it out and I put it in, and that kind of got the whole, you know, title pagey thing done. I like it. So this was the sermon journal notes that I first started with. And I'll go through them quickly because they're not essentially the sermon journal, like this isn't a sermon journal flip through. So I did this, and it wasn't the first thing that I did, but I went back and did it. So this was plain art. So this was something I did with a set of watercolors and a brush, a water brush, and a black pen. And I loved it because I had thought about doing something like this, and I based it very loosely on my niece. And I've since made this initial idea a lesson for journaling crazy island style. Love it. So heavily influenced for a little while by France Papillon. And I liked the idea of using some texture and working with pastels and paint and texture. But it wasn't kind of me, and I like experimenting with different styles and then seeing those which work into my own. And this was part of that, using elements of things that I'd been given and that I had. And I wanted to be able to incorporate them always. This page came out of doing expressive painting and not drawing faces but just painting them. And this was when we lost our business back in 2015, and it's dated May 26, and we finished up on May 29. So I was really thinking about, at that point, ending one thing and starting another. I had another job to go to, so it was all good and plain sailing at that point, but it was a huge change in routine and direction. This was very much inspired by a particular stencil. So I had this lovely stencil here, and I wanted to do like an antique wallpaper, and I really shabby, and I really like it. I've got some fabric paper in here, and I've got a stamp of a little face in here that you may or may not be able to see. It's very indistinct, and I've got letters that I wrote in and then blacked out, and yeah, I like it. It's one of those that kind of was a background that never made it into anything else, but I really like that. This was the first page that I did for the CAC Love Summer Art, and this, I stopped doing the challenges a bit after this because it was like really regular, and I just didn't have time with my teaching schedule and everything. But I used a Jamie Doherty stencil here, and then just made it my own over some matte paper. These are the beautiful Victorian houses by Penny Black, and I made them out of my fabric paper. I do have a video on this channel, so if you go to other craft and projects, you will find the fabric paper, or how to make fabric paper. That's a really cool tutorial, and I stamped on the fabric paper, which was easier than it looked, harder than it looks, because the fabric paper is so textured. And I did a really smoking hot background, kind of almost bushfiery, because back in July of 2015 it was cold in our winter, but we'd had a really hot summer and I was channeling that. So here I was throwing some inks around and not really doing too much with it, because of course when you make marks with ink on dylusions paper that's not got the right ground on it, you can't move them very much, so or you'll pull the paper. So I had to learn to kind of just leave the marks where they were, and I stamped with ink, and then I put a really cool stamp on there, and then I put a truism on there, and tried out the new Epic pen from Jane Davenport down the side here. And this is one of my favorite pages. So I got a napkin, and the napkin ends around here, and then I kind of tore around it on the edges. And so what I then did was I then decided that I would create different colors and then make it my own, so it looked like this one of those pages where you can't tell where the napkin ends and finishes. And then I painted and used a lot of work and did a lot of work over the actual napkin itself to make it look like mine, and of course added the quote in because I loved it. I did this when I had another job and I was in Melbourne and I was away for work, and something had happened that made me really unhappy. I think it was that I had no hot water and nobody cared. And she doesn't look very happy. And I know I drew another face at the time where she didn't look very happy. But you'll be able to see the progression of what I do with faces and how my portraiture has worked, how it works after this point, like further on, because I've been doing portraiture this year, so the things in 2016 I've grown. So I'd always really wanted to do a scene with silhouetted fairies in the foreground and a really cool background technique. And I worked a bit on this. I used some dylusions paints and kind of scrubbed them in the way Diane Reevely does, and I used a lot of my stamps and I kind of moved them around and worked them in, and I kind of got to the point where I really liked the background, and then I stamped my fairies, and then I made a problem with the stamp, which you can kind of see here, but I managed to save it, and I really like being able to save pages that sometimes I make mistakes on. This is a cool page though. This is a gorgeous stencil, and this was a bookmark that I designed using a page of this kind of work, and I did that for Jules Conference 2015. I wasn't creative director that year. I had a big year on and I was working really hard, and I enjoyed a little bit of the creative process. I wanted to use some of scrap papers and some jelly prints, old jelly prints that I had, and some really cool papers where I've got, sewing in the papers, and I just had some handmade stamps, so I just put it all together and really liked it. Finger painting, love finger painting. So I worked on this page. It actually worked really quite well on dylusions paper. I did use a little bit of retarder, but this is essentially all done with finger painting, even the boat, but a few of the fine lines and the little pussycat at the bottom isn't. And of course the writing isn't, but I really liked it. I did a short story with this, and it kind of opened some doors for me, this page, when I shared it on social media and people saw it. I had some opened opportunities with it, really enjoyed it. This is chameleon markers and a Jane Davenport stencil. I got to the point where I didn't like the chameleon markers in the end. I kind of like the way this page works, but I do, but I don't, and I really have a love-hate relationship now with the chameleon markers. I find that they take too long to get the the correcting fluid in to lighten the tone. Yeah, and I'm forever sitting there holding my markers up like this, you know, kind of getting that in so that I can have lighter colours. But all in all, an okay page. This one, I'm just looking for a quote. So I'm just thinking about a quote. I was thinking of pusses, and I still have to sketch in a few little things, but I really like the eyes. And I haven't put any whiskers in yet, but I'm thinking about this page. And this often happens with me. I'll think about a page and I'll do part of it and then I'll leave it, and then I'll do part of it and then I'll leave it. And I'm thinking about this because there's something else that I want to do with it, but it's great as it is already. I was playing around with fairies and different techniques, and I wrote lots of things on this page, and love that you can't read it exactly. And of course working in my favourite colours of magentas and reds, and I really like Australian sienna and Nicolazo gold in golden paints, but Australian sienna and matisse and transparent umber are really cute, like a sad fairy. I call this sad fairy. This is one of my favourite pages. It was all about worry and anxiety, and I found a couple of things in my Happy Mail stash that I felt went really well, and I did some finger painting for all the background and working into this and scribbling around. I loved it. I loved it, and I put some of my thoughts about it on the page as well, because I think our journals are a reflection of who we are. And I think it's important for us to put our thoughts on, because I don't diarise so much anymore. I use this as my way of marking my life. And so I like to date a lot of my pages, and I like to put my thoughts down. This was when the tragedy in France occurred, and I journaled my thoughts about the atrocities that happened there. And I had drawn this girl when I was showing someone how to do big-eyed girls with a slightly different profile. And I really liked how that turned out. I kind of used some sponging and kind of worked it in, and yeah, I really like how it turned out. And I think I was able to get all my thoughts down as if I was diarising it anyway. This is one of my favourite pages. It's like a little short story. I did it in December of 2015, and this is the transfer. It's from one of my favourite magazines called Womankind, and you can get that anywhere now, just about anywhere now. And when I saw this picture originally, I thought it was absolutely perfect to do as a transfer, and I like that you can see the book paper underneath it. That I've painted on in other places, because I just laid 2 book pages on here and I wanted to show part of the text and not. And then I drew this girl and I thought, oh, okay, so I really want to write a story about who's looking through the window and what the window means. So again, I'm using these gorgeous titanium, bleached titanium, or unbleached titanium, and some Payne's grey. I've got another transfer here, and I really like the transparent and sketchy nature of it, and I've got some music under there. And the story and the writing that I wrote here, I didn't want everyone to read it, so I've rubbed over it a bit with paint so that it's not easily readable. Again, I'm liking these smoky blue colours, and I used some of my stamps. I just decided that I would sketch a girl in Stabilo, and then all I did was activate her with a little bit of gesso initially, and then some water over the gesso, and just layered her up. I had a couple of cutouts from my Happy Mail stash, and that was in 2016. I haven't done this journal chronologically. Sometimes I would do a background for pages and I wouldn't know where I was going with it, so I would leave it for a really long time and just keep going on with the journal. Don't be afraid to do that. I think sometimes it's it can be hard to think about it in that way, but I think it's really cool, you know. Like, I think you can allow things to percolate on at the way that you want them to. Like I said, this journal's taken me essentially 2 years to do. This is an art therapy page, and it was talking more about inner scars that we have that you can't see. So it's about that which you can't see. I've got my puss up here at the moment. She's very cute and she's demanding some of my attention. But a horror disguised in Brussels. And so this was about the Belgium problem and what happened in Belgium. And I took some of the paper and I really wanted to put the paper in there. I just used some water-soluble graphite, and I was away from home. I was up at Noosa on holiday when I heard about this, and it was around the Easter weekend, and it was just really a sad time this year, and I reflected and it affected me quite profoundly, and I had to do something about that. This page was about watercolour onto gesso, so not the best ground for watercolour, but I worked with it. I was sitting on the beach looking out at this scenery and decided I wanted to start painting it. I didn't put it perfectly in perspective, but I wanted to be able to do it and then write and journal what I was thinking of at the time, and I really liked the idea that I could just incorporate that into the picture. I was asked to be on a guest designer for the monthly mixed media box, The Artful Life, and Aurora had found my YouTube channel and she gave me a couple of stencils, and this was one of the videos that I did for that. The video for this page is actually on my YouTube channel. There's a few of the videos, but less in this book, that are on my YouTube channel, but this is one of them, and therefore the Artful Life monthly box openings using 2 of her stencils, the 3/4 face and the profile face, and using some of the materials that were in the mixed media box that month. Again, this is the same. This is 2 stencils again. I had just started off with a background and I didn't know what to do with it, and I left it there for a long time. I had some leftover paint and I just left it there, but I really like how, particularly in this girl here, how the green has affected the tone of her face. I like the different way that I did that and how I did her hair, and I like the way that I journaled around it, and it was all about how inspired I was on that day. I'd been to a Rotary Peace Fellow seminar, and it really profoundly impacted me, and I wrote about the positive impact that it had on my life. So I was doing some mouth and lip and studies, and I was thinking about that. I'd prepared the ground here and I wanted to do something that was simple, that I could use really easily, and of course you can see the red has kind of translated onto this page, but fortunately it's easy to rub off, and I just do that occasionally. I should seal the pages, but now that I'm finished I will probably do it. And also with your erasers, when you're going over something that may smudge, I just use a brush, a stiff brush, to get those off. But these are very profound, and these came to me, so these are Peterisms, and they came to me when I had a look at those and I wanted to say something about it. Again, I was looking at dylusions paints, dylusions stencils, all different types of stencils, and I had this really bright background and I kind of didn't like it, and I still kind of don't like it, but I'm happy to leave it. And then I went to an expo and I just sat there with a blue Stabilo oil pencil, and I just started drawing and then activating it, and people were watching what I was doing, and I was demonstrating art journaling, and it was really cool. People kind of said, I really, really like that, and I saw the word, I felt the words of the song, I See Sunshine on a Cloudy Day, so I really liked that. I thought that I was good for that. This was another challenge for the Artful Life. I was using Holbein pastels, which are they're an oil pastel, but they're really dry. And again, I got this gorgeous napkin, and I've melded the napkin in, and I've gotten to the point now where you don't know where the napkin ends and it starts. And I went over it really a lot, to the point where you don't know what a lot of the original colours are with these. And I tell you what, the pastels aren't transferring. And my pick for actually being able to work in art journals with pastels would be the Holbeins. They feel dry to the touch, not tacky, and they're not rubbing. And this is now been done in April 2016, so it's had quite a few months to actually cure and see if it would wreck. Yeah. So now we get into my stencils. So this is my side profile stencil. I have a front profile Brave Girl. I have a side profile, which is this little one. She's got a little bunny with her. And I have a rear facing stencil with a little kitty cat. I do have more stencils in the pipeline, but these are all available from www.missladypetalcreations.com. So I have that website now, my own website and my own online store. And I really had used all these candy colours because they were left over from a page, and I thought, oh well, I'll just do her in candy colours. I painted her right over the top, and I just left some of the colours there to colour her. It was really simple to do, really simple. This is another one of my stencils. So this is my Shrug Girl, and I do have a process video for this on my YouTube channel. So you just have to look at Mash It Up Shrug Girl and you will see her there demonstrated. And so she is my Shrug Girl stencil, and this background is really cool the way that I did this, and I love it. There is beauty in imperfection because she's not perfect. Her lips are very low, she doesn't have much of a chin, but she's looking down a bit. So, but her nose is not perfect if she's looking down, but I really like her and she looks gorgeous. And of course with her it's all about the eyes, and she's beautiful. This is a page that I just finished really recently. So I had this girl drawn in, and I had this big wing, and I had this mess of ink, but I hadn't doodled on it. So I got in with my Epic pen, which is a Jane Davenport pen. You can buy it from janedavenport.com, and it gives me lots of really nice fineness that I can write with. I did all the writing and the wording with this, and it says, imagine the possibilities that exist if only you would say yes. And I was thinking about that in terms of opportunity. When opportunity knocks, often we say no because we have fear that it won't work out or that we will fail. And this page is all about that opportunity is offered, she's offering it to you, her arm is open, pointing the direction to you, and what are you going to do? Are you going to say yes? This is my rear facing stencil girl, and of course the cute little kitty cat. I gave her really pink skin, and I was using a Stampin' Up stamp here, and I kind of wrote it in because it's bigger than the Stampin' Up stamp, but I really liked it. And I just did some stitching around, so I keep some of them really, and I had some really yucky colours, and I just went over them, and I just kind of like it. It's a bit grungy while being very simple at the same time. And again, that stencil is available in my online store. So this is one of those pages where, again, I collaged some book pages down. I've just done this with an Epic pen, and done this with scraping Payne's Grey and unbleached titanium, and I'm happy to leave this as is. I'm kind of thinking, do I kind of blot out the background or do I colour the girl? I'm not quite sure yet, and I may come back to it, but I may leave it because I kind of like it the way it is. There's endless possibility there. This was really interesting because I'd done a big inky page in my large Dylusions journal, but I had done it on different paper. I had done it on the manila paper, and the ink took really quite well, but this particular paper, it didn't. And I struggled with it, and it basically just sunk in, and I had trouble working with it, and I didn't really like it. And this page kind of reflects that it didn't turn the way that I like to do my watercolour. This is a really recently completed page, and you know, that one that had some double-sided tape, and so I'm just going to glue that in while I'm doing this, because I just want it to stay there. because again I was looking at my Happy Mail stash, and that's nowhere near the edges, so I don't need to worry about it. It says, my hair is blowing in the breeze, covering the expressions on my face and covering my thoughts and my emotions, because I'd had to hide them for a while. So this girl's a full-length girl, and I was inspired by a magazine, and I really liked the profile, and I liked the idea that her hair was blowing over her face, and it was just about being simple, having her there, and having nice hands, and just having a nice form and feature profile. So she's one of the most recent pages that I've finished. You can see that my portraiture and life drawing is coming along really well. This is the most unfinished page that I've got, and again it's the beginning stages of what you can see what I do with a napkin. So what I will do is I will work with this whole page and I'll make it look like I've painted it, and I will make this all blend in together. And that's how I started with the wine and cheese page, and with that floral love is spring page. So this is one of my most recent ones, and I'm getting near the end of this journal now. And again, she was a woman in a magazine that I then just drew, and I loved working on the hand, particularly here. I think my faces, you know, have really improved, and I liked her hair and the way it fell, and you can really see how it glistens in the light and how it's got the gold in it, and depending on how you look at it. But I had a really good word, and I really felt that that applied to me at the time. And it was like, look towards the sun to energize your thoughts, crystallize your vision, your determination. But what if we didn't want to clarify our thoughts? Our lives would pass us by on autopilot, with us sometimes noticing things, but what would you do? So it's a question for me. This was a gorgeous little postcard that I got sent from my friend Irina in Belarus, and I love the fact that she sends me painted postcards. I've recently just sent her some stuff, and I thought, oh, this was just gorgeous, and I wanted to put it in and save it and write a little note about our friendship and how it came about. And she was just a subscriber on my YouTube channel like you guys are, but she decided to start sending me these gorgeous handmade postcards, and I would send her stuff back. It's really, really cute. This is one of my most recent pages. I really like it. Sometimes you can just sketch on book pages and then glue them on. I had a really simple photograph that I was working from, where there was a couple of mice that were curled over a wrought iron gate. So this is the edge of the gate, and the clasp for the gate's actually over here in the middle, so you can't see that. It's just the edge of the gate. And the mouse is on the curve of the gate, but the pussycat's here that I'd drawn, and I wanted to use that. And I've just been cheeky with this page. So this is a page that I just did the other day. And of course, I love ballerina feet, and I love the legs. And it was a really sketchy page that I just kind of used some watercolor and inked in a bit, random kind of background, and then I kind of used a little bit of paint over the top and sketched some legs, and this dress just came out of it. And then of course I've done the writing in an Epic pen. And this is the final page in the journal. So I just did this one yesterday, and this was based on a Marie Claire girl, and she actually had this kind of grungy princessy dress on, and she had jeweled headphones and really cool. But I put the mobile phone in there because I kind of wanted her to look like a modern day kind of it girl. And the word that I got when I was doing this that jumped out at me was, be the author of your own story or somebody else will take over. And that's so true. So be the author of your own story. Don't allow anybody else to determine the path that your life will take. And that, I think, is the thought that I will leave with you now. I have loved doing this journal. It's now pretty much complete. I'm going to put it away and think about it, and then at some point in the future I will probably pull it out and actually finish 1 or 2 pages in there, but that might not happen for a while. But I'm really happy to put this one away for now. So ciao for now, and I'm glad you have enjoyed this.